90s or so, and I lived in the Comox Valley. There's nobody quite like Wedlidi. Wedlidi's here. You have a treat.
Thank you, Christopher. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wedlidi, Wedlidi's First Nations. I inherited it from my father, and the name goes back to probably 10,000 years. It translates, no matter how much wealth you give away, there's never an end. And I keep going, interesting. But anyway, let's get on with the questions.
How would you know if you find the right story?
How would you know when you find the right story? It's a great question, because sometimes in terms of, as being a storyteller, it's one of the things that I've done in my past, is that stories come to you in really interesting ways. A friend of mine, for instance, gave me a book as a gift, and I happened to just flip it open, and in the book, where I opened it, it was called The Journey of Jumping Mouse. And this particular little story is about a mouse who whiskers touch the ground, picks up seeds and nuts, but journeyed, and then through that journey, transformed into an eagle. So I was able to see the world in a narrow, short way, and then all-encompassing way. That story changed my life. I've worked with the military treasury board, I've worked with teachers, I've worked with policemen, I've worked with youth who were in jail. That story has been a template or a pathway for people to look at themselves. So that story found me. But I threw myself into the story, and it really helped me in my work.
How did you change your path? Was this stuff about like changing your path?
How did I change my path?
Yeah, so like how to change a path and all that.
Okay. I've done that several times in my life. I think in terms of about one constant in my life is leadership. Whether I was the captain of our soccer team, or I was a manager on a fish boat, or a leader, would say, in the community. I'm the head chief of my family. No matter where I've gone, there's been elements of leadership. But in employment-wise, I've been very curious about the world. And so, for instance, when I was young, I went and worked with Noranda way up in the Barrenlands in the Arctic Circle. And I just wanted to learn about myself in relationship to that kind of work. And so I started to approach working in a really different kind of way. So I looked at the work experiences, what it can do to inform me about life, and can stretch me and help me to grow. And so I made a vow to myself that every 5 years I want to try something new. And in that, it could be still working with the same people, but it's helping me to learn different things. I've been a youth and family counselor in a middle school in the community I come from. I've worked in that as a therapist with youth who are in jail. I've worked with their families and so forth. So each part of that work is a change of path, because it means that you have to approach who you work with in a little different way. And that's really powerful. So you have to learn new skills. You have to think differently. For instance, our first speaker today talked a bit about working with individuals who beat their wives. Well, I work with teenagers who committed some pretty horrific crimes. You know, they'd murdered and they'd hurt people in real serious ways. So in order for me to be a good helper to that person, I had to be able to suspend the thoughts and beliefs that I had and see the person, not the event or the crime that they committed. Only then could I be a helpful person, right? So I've changed pathways in that kind of way. I think if it's clear enough. There's one great thing about my job. Well, currently, I'm a senior leader with the Ministry of Children and Family, and we call it strategic leads, which means that we take ideas that are in the air, we kind of massage those ideas, we put wheels on those ideas, and we make it happen. And so my job in that senior leadership way is to do a lot of thinking and get people in the room to help them think and communicate those ideas. And I love that. I love the idea of using creative thinking processes. Very good at that. And so it gets the people, like, they can leave the room and they feel like we've done something, even though we've simply talked about it. But what we do is when we take those ideas, there'll be somebody in another room that we meet with to say, how would you put wheels on this idea, and how would you roll it out to make it a part of a program that can help families feel better about themselves? And when you see that happen, yes, I love it. My inspiration to do what I do. I think, therefore I am. No, say. I really like the idea of engaging with people, and I like the idea of learning from people, and I think when this particular job at the level that it is was so exciting that I knew that I'd be working provincial-wide with people around issues of changing things so people get better, you know, and so the inspiration is like, you know, I figure I'm 60 now, and so I think generally people retire at 65. I just get going. Love this stuff. So it's keeping me in my mind really feeling young and excited. I want to get up in the morning to do work. That's a great thing.
You talk about culture and traditions. Is it important to know your history, your culture, and your background?
Absolutely. What that does for me is knowing my history, where I come from. I'm the family myth keeper for 7 clans. I can get up in an event and tell that person's story. Where they come from, where their ancestors lived, how they married, what they transferred in that marriage. I can do 9 generations without any problem for each of those families. And I know 50 names in each of those families. And so something about learning how to use your memory and being really accurate about it, and it's really important. So what that does in knowing your history and where you come from, it gives you this, a sense of place and a sense of belonging.